So we're continuing to talk about having difficult conversations. And in the last video, I talked about the first, frame of this, and that is managing yourself. How do you manage yourself going into those difficult conversations? Because if we don't manage ourselves effectively, we bring stress to that situation. We are feeling a heightened response and reaction, and the other person will intuitively feel that. And so you make an already difficult conversation even more amplified by your stress response. So managing yourself in advance, we talked about it in the previous video, feel free to catch up on that one. I have a 5-step process that I talk to my clients about. The first step in the process is focus on your desired outcome. What is the outcome you want from the conversation? Not the conversation itself. What's the outcome you want having had the conversation? Once you're clear on that and the reason why you're having the conversation, it will give you more confidence because you know that you're not just having this conversation for the sake of it, there's a reason for doing so. The second point then is when you go into that conversation with the other person, is to be really clear on what it is that they are doing, their behavior. What's the specific behavior that you're trying to address in that conversation? Because very often difficult conversations are about people's behaviors. So what's the behavior and what's the impact of their behavior? And even if it's in a situation where it's a client, then maybe thinking about, what is the situation and what's the impact of that situation. So be really clear on it. This is the situation I need to address. And this is why, because the impact of the situation is this. And lay it out as objectively as possible. So what I see is this happens and the impact of this happening is this. Now the third step is then to check that other person's perspective. What do they think? How do they see it? Are they even aware? Because very often in situations like this, your job is to create awareness in the other person. And we think it's a really difficult conversation. It is, but mainly it's been blown up in our own minds and it's about creating awareness. So third step is check their perspective. Now, if they are unaware, you've just turned on a light bulb in their minds and hopefully that may be enough. If they are resistant, then you make sure that you've got specific examples of the behaviors and the impact, the behaviors and the impact. And that will help you to feel much more in control of that conversation and calmer, especially if you've managed yourself going into the conversation as we've discussed on the last video. So then the fourth step is to what I call get leverage. So you need to now think about how you explain to that person the consequences of them not changing. So if this carries on, the implications for you are, insert implications here. It's going to restrict your career. It's going to damage relationships. It's going to have a detrimental effect on our business and I can't tolerate that. You decide, but getting leverage on the person so they understand, right, I'm now aware and actually this cannot continue. And then the final step is gaining their commitment to change. Okay, so what are you going to do instead? How are you going to behave in certain situations? How are you going to fix the situations that already exist? And that is the final step. What I also advise clients to do, and I've done this myself, is then a final door opener. Leave the door open for a future conversation. And it's as simple as this. How would you like me to help you commit to this change in the future? So if I see this behavior recurring, how am I going to address it with you? How would you like me to address it with you? And you will be surprised at how effective that is in holding that other person to account, because all you're doing is then giving yourself permission to have a future conversation. And guess what? That future conversation is nowhere near as difficult as that initial conversation. And this is something that if you can get this right, this will transform your relationships. It will improve your ability to have those conversations and you'll no longer be fearful of those difficult conversations. So if you have a difficult conversation coming up, I hope this structure is going to be useful for you. I've got a chart that I'll show, a graphic that just lays out the 5 steps as well. So I hope that's useful and I'd love to hear your feedback. And if you are going to use this process and structure. I'd love to hear how you get on with it as well. Hope you have a fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video from Focus for Growth. Thanks for watching.